At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight. With school out, summer is the perfect time to teach our kids real-world money skills they'll use forever. Greenlight is a debit card and the #1 family finance and safety app used by millions of families, helping kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely. Parents can send their kids money and track their spending and saving, while kids build money confidence and skills in fun ways. Start your risk-free Greenlight trial today at greenlight.com/Wondery. That's greenlight.com/Wondery.
Hi, I'm Jessie Prey.
And I'm Andy Cassette.
If you're captivated by true crime stories that delve deep into the complexities of love and betrayal, Love Murder is your next binge.
Each week, we present long-form narrative episodes backed by meticulous research, exploring cases where passion leads to peril.
Take, for instance, Blanche Taylor Moore, a seemingly devout preacher's wife who concealed a deadly secret, leaving a trail of poisoned partners.
Or the tragic tale of Chad Shelton and Dwayne Johnson, whose sudden deaths unveiled a web of familial deceit and revenge.
These aren't just stories. They're deep dives into the human psyche and the dark side of love.
Join us on Love Murder as we uncover the chilling narratives of love gone fatally wrong.
Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 423 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing okay. How about you?
Doing great.
Yeah?
You know, we talked about it on our weekly Patreon thing, but my daughter bought her first brand new car.
Oh, yeah. Ford Fiesta.
Yeah, that's what she got, a Ford Fiesta. No, but we were talking about, you know, our first cars, our first new cars.
Yeah.
You know, those are memories that you just never forget.
That's true.
Let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout outs. We had Shay.
Hey, Shay.
Brittany Wiley jumped out at her highest level.
Wow. Thanks, Wiley. Is that like Wiley Coyote? Coyote? Remember the coyote?
I do remember
Is
it.
it Wiley?
Why are you comparing our Patreon individuals to a coyote?
I don't know. It just popped in my head.
I think you're right, though. Wiley Coyote.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Brittany.
Lisa Colts.
Hey, Colts.
Haunted Julianne.
All haunted.
Andrea.
Oh, hi, Andrea.
Andre Davidson.
Thanks, Andre.
Josh Chastain.
What up, Josh?
Trish May.
There's Trish.
Kara Hill.
Well, thanks, Hill.
And last but not least, Hannah Fitzsimmons Art.
That's a lot of syllables.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, hi, Hannah.
And then you just called her Hannah. Then if we go back into the vault. This week we selected Denise Manty.
Thanks, DM.
So we appreciate all the new support, the continued support. So Gibbs, we have an episode out right now on True Crime All the Time where we're talking about Christopher McCowan. And this is a fascinating case. You have this woman named Krista Worthington, a former fashion journalist and single mother who's murdered in this town north of Cape Cod in 2002. And then 3 years after that, DNA evidence matched a surprising suspect. It was a local sanitation worker. I think this is a case where people will look at it and say, yeah, the evidence they had supported the conviction. But there's some testing going on right now of some evidence that was apparently lost for about 18 years that could change things. So
It could.
I don't want to give anything away, but there's a lot of mystery.
How the hell you lose something for 18 years?
That's a mystery.
That is a mystery.
All right, buddy. Are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I am.
We're talking about Marcus Rutledge. Marcus Rutledge was a young father who went missing in June 1998, shortly before he was supposed to graduate college. Foul play was suspected from the beginning, and Marcus's family thought he might have gotten involved with dangerous people in the months leading up to his death, although those individuals remain unidentified.
You ever get mixed up with the wrong crowd?
I'm looking at the wrong crowd right now. Somehow I got mixed up with you. And my wife thinks you are a bad influence. Did you ever have like friends that your parents thought were bad influences? Oh, yeah. And some of them really were.
I'm that guy. Okay.
Marcus and his older sister, Felicia, grew up in Michigan. His parents, David and Geraldine, who went by Jerry, met in college, and they decided to settle down in Jerry's hometown in Ypsilanti. David Rutledge told Dateline, Marcus was a vivacious baby. And, that's a descriptive word that I don't think I've heard a lot of people use about a baby.
No.
I get it. He was energetic. He was all over the place, but vivacious is not a word usually thrown around about babies. Marcus's mother, Jerry, was an elementary school teacher and regularly checked in with Marcus's teachers, who said he was an active student who often got out of his seat. You know who's going to be very invested in your education?
Your mom that's a teacher?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, parents, normally, most parents are very interested in how you're doing in school. But if your mom is a teacher, my wife is a teacher. So every night it was like, did you do your homework? She's emailing teachers. She's checking the grade books once they became electronic.
Yeah.
She wanted to make sure she had access to all of that.
She's got all that teacher lingo. She can talk to the teachers on the private teacher chat somewhere where they can tell the truth to the teacher parents what's really going on. I know it exists. There's some underground network or something between teachers and parents that are teachers.
Teacher code.
Yeah.
Felicia recalled about growing up with Marcus. I think we might have been partners in crime. My parents used to go out of town and they would leave us at the house. We were teenagers. And boy, we'd be waiting for that time. We'd have our friends over to the house, of course.
Those were good times, man, when your parents went away for an extended period of time, even if it was just a long time during the day, but really when they went away at night or a weekend. Oh, man.
My parents never did that.
You missed out, man.
No. And the times that they did, I had a rule. I never did anything at my house.
Yeah.
Because it just didn't seem to make sense to me. It was so much easier to go to somebody else's house whose parents weren't home.
Sure.
That way, when the whole house got trashed, I just left.
You're like, I just went home and I was cool.
And I wasn't getting in trouble because my house was fine. Felicia described her brother as a gentleman and a polite kid with a good head on his shoulders. Marcus participated in the band during his school years. He played football, soccer, and also enjoyed reading. He was a popular kid with a lot of friends.
Man, oh man, I really enjoyed reading too.
Yeah, I know the 10th grade when you learned to read, that was a very exciting time.
It was a breakthrough moment.
It was a breakthrough. Marcus's close friend, Eddie Beach, told Dateline he was a very, very funny person, but he was serious about everything and anything in school. Once he got to know you and he trusted you, he would give you the shirt off his back. That was the type of person he was. So he sounds like a good kid. He's involved in a lot of extra curricular activities.
Yeah.
He was a good student.
Keep him busy.
He was popular. I don't think his mom was going to let him not be a good student. In 1994, Marcus started his freshman year at Tennessee State University in Nashville, a historically black university. Oprah is one of the most famous alumni of the school. Both of Marcus's parents attended TSU, as well as his sister Felicia, who was a sophomore when he started.
Kind of like a legacy school for that family.
Yeah. And I think that can happen with a lot of families. You hear about it, especially with some people who are really good at sports. Their mom or their dad played at this school. They want to go play at this school.
Yeah.
David Rutledge told Dateline, it's a special place, a place where not only academic learning takes place, but also social learning. And I think that's true of all colleges. Obviously you're there to learn. You're there for the academics. You may be there for sports as well, but it's also a place where a lot of social learning takes place.
Sure. Life skills.
Well, both good and bad.
Yeah.
Right. You can pick up a lot of bad habits at college, which I did when I first got there.
I sure did.
But you can also, learn a lot about being independent, even if it's, quasi-independent. You might have to do your own laundry. You got to take care of yourself. You got to know when to get up and when to get to class.
How'd that work out for you?
Not great. Not great at all. Felicia studied at TSU for a couple of years before she moved to Michigan to finish school. She called Marcus often to check on him. As far as she knew, he was attending his classes and had a lot of friends. Marcus also was seeing a girl named Valencia Bryant. Valencia told Dateline that she and Marcus kept running into each other on campus and eventually struck up a conversation. She said he was a jokester, always smiling, always laughing, just goofy, silly. Everybody liked being around Marcus. And I think that's a theme, right, that we're hearing about Marcus Rutledge.
Yeah.
He was not a loner. He was not someone who, by choice, was not fitting in. He was in the middle of everything, it sounded like, and everybody kind of, wanted to be his friend, wanted to be around him.
Gravitated towards him.
Yeah.
Life of the party.
I think so. Just a few months into the relationship, Valencia got pregnant. She and Marcus were only 18 at the time. She told Dateline, it was scary, but I was also excited and very happy. And he seemed to be too. Like when the initial shock wore off. I get that, right? At 18, finding that out, there's going to be some shock.
Oh, for sure.
Involved. It probably is not part of the life plan at that point.
No, it's life-changing.
It's life-changing. But once you know it's going to happen, I think a lot of people would get excited and be very happy about it. Marcus was worried about what his parents would think. So he waited until he came home for the summer to tell them. And I get that. That it's not something that I experienced firsthand, but I can put myself in his shoes.
Yeah.
Here's a kid at 18 years old who's just starting college. And now he finds out that he's going to be a dad, school teacher for a mom, right? Academics, highly stressed.
Right.
So they want him to get his degree. How are they going to react when they find out that this is going on? Are they going to be worried that, this is going to derail his plans? He's going to have to drop out. I can see why he'd be concerned.
It'd be a tough conversation to get going on the phone. Like, hey, Mom, yeah, grades are good. Really like my one teacher, my one sociology class, whatever. It's good. And by the way, you're going to be grandma. Gotta go, Mom.
Sneak that in right at the end.
Yeah.
But it's also going to be, a shock to his parents as well, right? Hearing it right off the bat. His son, Darius, was born a little over a week later. Marcus's family came down to Tennessee to see Valencia and the baby.
So he really waited as long as he could. Like, I guess I'm going to have to tell him now because the baby's going to be here any day.
Yeah. But he did want to wait till he got home for the summer. But like you said, it was not far from when the baby was going to be born. Valencia left school and moved to Knoxville so her parents could help her with the baby. Marcus stayed at TSU and traveled often to see them. Everyone agreed that Marcus was a good father and tried his best to be there for all his son's important moments. Again, that's tough at 18, 19 years old.
Absolutely.
You're going to college and you've got a new baby. You're at school your girlfriend, the baby's mom, is in Knoxville. Same state, but I'm sure it's a drive.
Oh, it's hard when you're older with the kids, let alone
at 18.
At 18.
When I was a freshman in college, sophomore in college, I was just trying to figure out where I was going to get enough money to order a pizza. Not how I was going to buy diapers and formula and have enough gas money to drive to see them. Marcus and Valencia eventually broke up, but continued co-parenting Darius. Valencia said that they remained close, and she always talked to Marcus if she needed something.
So it sounds like they had a good relationship.
Yeah, it really does. It doesn't sound like it was contentious. It was just they decided that, wasn't going to work out. But they both wanted to be there for Darius. By 1998, Marcus was dating a woman named Tawanya. Dateline didn't give her last name. Marcus last saw Darius in May 1998 when he took his son to the zoo. Marcus last saw his family in Michigan during Memorial Day weekend, 1998. He flew home for the long weekend. They picked him up at the airport and they had a family barbecue. Marcus seemed happy and normal. And I think that's always important, right? What's the description of this person before they disappear? Are they anxious? Are they agitated?
Depressed?
Are they looking at their watch or looking at their phone all the time as if, they're worried about something? No. Apparently he seemed very normal and very happy. Marcus was supposed to graduate college in June 1998. His son's 4th birthday was the following month. He and Valencia were planning a carnival-themed birthday party together.
So some big plans, right? That's a big month right there.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on. Big milestones, right? Graduating from college, his son's turning 4. On June 8th, 1998, the Rutledges received a phone call from Tawanya, who said she and Marcus planned to meet earlier in the day, but he didn't show up and she couldn't reach him. Felicia and Marcus's parents called him and received no answer. Felicia continued calling Marcus into the early morning hours. The family was worried because Marcus always answered the phone or called them back within a reasonable time frame. The family called Valencia, who said she hadn't talked to Marcus in a few days. Tawanya continued checking in with the family to ask if they'd heard from Marcus. She told them she was going to his apartment and bringing his best friend, Ethan Gibbs, with her. The two of them broke a window to get in. Marcus had recently moved out of the apartment he shared with Ethan and was living alone in Nashville. According to David Rutledge, Marcus called him and said he wanted to get his own place. When he asked why, Marcus said Ethan wasn't doing his fair share of chores and was always late with his portion of the rent. And that's one of the big problems of, having a roommate. They're not always on the same page as you are.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't be good roomies.
Why is that?
Because you probably get upset that I'm eating your food all the time.
Yes, because you wouldn't be paying for any of it. That would upset me when you never went to the grocery.
You'd finally come up from downstairs. You see me eating that last ice cream sandwich, And you'd be like, is that my last ice cream sandwich? I'd be like, I don't know.
I'm paying for everything and you're eating it up. After breaking into Marcus's apartment, Tawanya called the Rutledges and told them that the apartment wasn't ransacked, but it looked like no one had been there for a while. She told them that Marcus's dog had been put in the bathroom with the door closed. The dog had been left without food for some time. It had eaten part of the bathroom rug and was drinking toilet water.
Oh man, poor baby.
Yeah, I mean that's sad. Luckily the dog's okay, but that's a tough situation. And it wasn't like Marcus, right, to leave his dog unattended without food or water for long periods. Heck, it's not like really any of us,
right,
dog lovers would ever do that. David told the Tennessean that Marcus loved animals so much he changed his major from computer science to biology with plans of becoming a veterinarian.
Well, right there tells you that he would never leave a dog there that long.
No, absolutely not. True Crime All the Time Unsolved is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. The brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Plus, your super light and ultra durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that?
For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just go to getcopperhead.com. That's getcopperhead.com for your 2 free gifts with purchase. Getcopperhead.com.
Tawanya called the police at 7:35 p.m. to report Marcus missing. She is the last known person to have seen or spoken to Marcus per Dateline. She told the police that she saw Marcus on the morning of June 8th when he was leaving her place. She talked to him around 1:30 p.m. and tried calling him several times later that afternoon. He never responded to her. And I think at this point, with the facts that we have, you could see why everyone would be so worried. You know, here's Marcus, who by all accounts is a stand-up guy, right? He loves his family. He's got a girlfriend. He's got a son, and he's on good terms with his son's mother.
Right.
He's talking to all these people on a pretty regular basis. And now all of a sudden, no one can get a hold of him, and no one's heard from him. And then his girlfriend and a friend, you know, they essentially break into his apartment. They're so worried about him. And it's not like it looks like a war zone in there.
Right.
But just the mere fact that the dog is shut up in the bathroom with no food or water is a very bad sign.
Yeah, it's alarming. The parents had to be concerned.
Investigators searched the apartment and found no signs of a struggle or foul play. None of Marcus's other family and friends had heard from him, and he wasn't found in local hospitals or jails. Everyone knew something was seriously wrong. Like we just said, right? Marcus was a responsible person. He would never have left his dog unattended. He wouldn't ignore his family and friends. And most importantly, he would never leave his son. Felicia and her parents flew down to Nashville and discovered that Marcus's red 4-door 1995 Plymouth Neon was gone. And we just talked about how worried the family was. You know, I can put myself in their shoes somewhat. I know you and I both, in that situation, we got to get there as soon as possible.
For sure.
And I think that was their thought as well. You know, we got to get on a plane.
Yeah. We got to check this out for ourselves.
But what does the discovery of Marcus's car being gone mean once they find that out?
I mean, there's a couple possibilities, right? Did someone take his car? Was he in the car when they took it? Did he take the car and drive off somewhere and just hasn't returned?
And he just decided that, you know what? I don't want to talk to anybody. I got to get away for a little bit. There's got to be a number of scenarios, you know, running through your head. Word quickly spread about Marcus's disappearance. Local media reported heavily on his case, including details about the missing car, which is important, right? If you got a car that's missing, you want to get that information out to as many people as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's allowing people to keep an eye out for it.
David Rutledge told Dateline, when we arrived in Nashville and met with Tawanya and Ethan and tried to learn all they knew, Ethan never ever seemed comfortable around us. And he was always perspiring, sweat dripping from his forehead. I mean, it was hot in Nashville, but wasn't that hot kind of thing. And normally that's kind of a bad sign.
It's a suspicious behavior.
Yeah. Now I'm a sweater, especially from the forehead when it's hot outside. But I think from David's perspective, it wasn't like this was a guy he didn't know, right? This is not a complete stranger. Ethan and Marcus were roommates.
Yeah, at one point.
So he had to have known him. Why all of a sudden does it seem like he's not comfortable around them? Is it because he knows something about what has happened to Marcus?
Yeah, it could be.
David added, I wish I had been more forceful in asking Ethan what he knew, maybe taking him to the side and saying, hey, look, it's me and you, man. I ain't doing nothing, but tell me, were you guys into something? So I take from that maybe he's not even thinking about Ethan being a part of it, but him knowing that maybe he and Marcus were doing something.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a little risky,
shady,
maybe even illegal that could have gotten Marcus in trouble. But he didn't want to say because that would implicate him maybe in something that was illegal. 23 days later, on July 1st, 1998, Marcus's car was found at the Riverwood Apartments off Cabot Drive in West Nashville. This was over 20 miles from his apartment. Marcus's family does not believe he knew anyone who lived in that complex.
And maybe he didn't drive it there.
Yeah, I think that's a real possibility, especially, if you get to the point where you think some type of foul play was involved, then, is it reasonable to assume that whoever was involved took the car and drove it far enough away and dumped it randomly in some apartment complex just to make it harder to find?
Absolutely.
Inside the car, the police found a handgun that possibly belonged to Marcus. They also found fingerprints on the car, which have not been matched to anyone. That seems like could be possibly a pretty big clue or a pretty big piece of evidence. But, we've talked about this before. Fingerprints, DNA, all this stuff is great, but it's really not worth much until you can find a match.
Well, that's exactly right. Until there's somebody in the system that it can be paired to, not going to do much for you.
No, you don't have a lot. And then also, you don't know if this is somebody that just walked by and, put their hand on the door. Who knows where the fingerprint was? Valencia Bryant said, I never knew Marcus to have a gun, but it didn't surprise me. He had some run-ins with some people, and they had been in some altercations. The police and the family started to suspect that Marcus was involved with people that they weren't aware of. And would that be all that out of the ordinary? I mean, as a parent, your kid's off at college. Do you know everything they're doing? Do you know all the people that they're hanging out with?
No.
No, it's not really possible.
There's things that I did when I was at college that I wouldn't want my parents to know, and I know there's things that you would not want your parents to know what you did.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
None of it illegal, but very embarrassing.
Yeah.
I know you've told me about that one time you went streaking through the quad, and then you got picked up by some of your friends, and you asked them to take you to KFC.
That's you, Frank.
Unfortunately, months passed with no new leads. Marcus's son, Darius, often asked when his father was going to visit him. He asked Valencia, where's my daddy? Why hasn't he called?
So sad.
I mean, that's enough to break your heart. Because what is she going to tell this little kid? She doesn't know what's going on. But my thought is that, everyone involved at a certain point, as more and more months go by, they got to start thinking maybe not the worst, but that things are not looking good.
Yeah.
Right at the very least. Valencia told him around September 1998 that he was gone. She told the Tennessean, he just immediately busted out crying. Somehow, I think he already knew because he was so down lately, just frowning when he'd ask about him.
It's so hard to do, man.
To have that conversation. Yeah, with your small son. In February 1999, Marcus's best friend, Ethan Gibbs, who was just 27, was murdered inside his home. Ethan was shot multiple times, possibly with more than one gun.
You know, that's why Darius's father said, man, I wish I would have asked him that day.
Because he can't now.
Yeah.
According to the Tennessean, he was found on Tuesday, February 23rd. His brother, who was staying with him temporarily, found him after returning from an out-of-town trip. However, authorities believe Ethan was killed on Sunday, February 21st. There were no signs of forced entry, indicating Ethan possibly knew the killer or killers. Ethan's vehicle was stolen and found on February 24th in the Inglewood neighborhood of Nashville, about 18 miles from his duplex. No weapons were found in the car. The address where his car was found held no significance to the family. But it is kind of interesting that both of these guys' cars were found roughly 20 miles away from where they lived.
Yeah.
Also, in both situations, there was no signs of forced entry. Now, the big difference here is that Ethan was found murdered inside of his residence, and Marcus has not been found at all. But is it a coincidence? And I think that's one of the questions you have to ask. It could be. I mean, there are a lot of murders in this country every day.
There is. But this could also mean that these are tied together as well.
It could. It could have meant that these two guys were into something or knew something. Ethan's aunt, Emma Vance, told the Tennessean he had been working over 70 hours a week as a tax consultant at his father's business and didn't even have time to have any enemies. On March 5th, 1999, the police named 24-year-old Charles A. Brown Jr. as a suspect in Ethan's murder. The motive remained under investigation, and the police had not yet found Charles. Charles had a record for unlawful weapon possession, marijuana possession, and aggravated assault. He occasionally lived with Ethan, and witnesses linked him to the crime. Charles Brown turned himself into the police on March 11th. His preliminary hearing took place on March 17th. Prosecutors presented pieces of circumstantial evidence against him, including a detective's belief that he evaded police for 2 weeks after the body was found. Raymond King testified that he spent several hours of the night of February 20th riding around with Ethan Gibbs and Charles Brown. Charles was scared that someone was out to get him. Charles had been shot during an attempted home invasion robbery in June 1998 and was wearing a bullet-resistant vest and had at least 2 guns in his vehicle. Okay, so the question there is, again, is this a random home invasion robbery, which is entirely possible, or is there something else that Charles knows about why someone would be out to get him?
I mean, that's the question, right?
Yeah. Is it a specific worry or is it just a general worry because he was robbed? And if it's a specific worry, then does it have something to do with Ethan and Marcus? Jonathan Gibbs, Ethan's brother, testified that Ethan and Charles were supposed to be best friends. On February 18th, Jonathan decided to stay away from the duplex for a few days after Ethan told him Charles was going to stay there because of problems with his girlfriend. Jonathan and Charles didn't get along because, as Jonathan said, I knew he wasn't the type of person my brother should be hanging around.
Bad influence.
Yeah, it's definitely not a glowing endorsement, right, from Jonathan about Charles. On February 20th, Ethan told Jonathan that Charles was going crazy with suspicion that his girlfriend was trying to have him killed. When Jonathan returned to the duplex on the night of February 23rd, the doors were open and he found Ethan's cold and hard body on the floor. Jonathan said in court, as quoted by the Tennessean, I know you're going to object to this, but my spirit told me Charlie B. did this.
Well, it could have been his spirit or maybe just his intuition.
Gut.
Yeah.
But one thing that went through my mind was, okay, Charles is worried that his girlfriend was trying to have him killed. Is it possible that she really was and that she knew he was staying with Ethan? Maybe there was a mix-up and the murder was supposed to be committed against Charles, but they killed Ethan.
Maybe.
I'm just throwing stuff out there.
I also think Charles was very paranoid.
Yeah.
Of everybody.
A woman testified that she saw Charles Brown leaving Ethan's vehicle on her street in the early morning hours of February 22nd. A detective testified that shell casings at the crime scene came from a .40 caliber gun, just like the one Raymond King said Brown was carrying in the hours before the murder. Brown also didn't attend Ethan's funeral or respond to messages the police left him for 2 weeks. Okay, so, I mean, there's some stuff here, but it's very circumstantial. Now, the one thing that jumped out at me was if these two guys are supposed to be best friends, he doesn't attend Ethan's funeral?
Why is that? Is he afraid he might be shot while there, or he just didn't attend because maybe they weren't that close?
Or he's ducking the police.
Exactly, yeah.
And some police, I'm sure, would be there to see if he maybe showed up. I think at that point, they probably were looking for him.
Certainly not good not to return the police calls over 2 weeks.
No. The judge sent the homicide charge to a grand jury for indictment, but the charges against Charles Brown were dismissed. And to be honest with you, that doesn't really surprise me. Like I said, there's a little bit of circumstantial stuff here, but is it enough to get a conviction? I would say no. They'd have to come up with something more than someone saw Charles Brown in the early morning hours and the shell casings were a .40 caliber and he was known to carry a .40 caliber. That's not real conclusive evidence.
It's a pretty good stretch.
Also, did you catch it that this guy's name is Charlie Brown?
I did.
It seems so strange to me.
I was like, where's Snoopy and Linus and
Peppermint Patty?
Peppermint Patty.
Detective Matthew Filter took over as lead investigator in 2020. He told Dateline he couldn't find out why exactly the charges were dropped. He mentioned that the case was built on circumstantial evidence, so the DA possibly thought they didn't have enough to secure a conviction. And that was my thought exactly. I mean, district attorneys don't normally like to lose.
Of course not.
Nobody likes to lose a case. So if you don't think it's strong enough to get a conviction, you're not going to take it to trial. Yeah. And you really shouldn't.
No, you shouldn't waste the taxpayers' money.
And you shouldn't put somebody on trial unless you have the evidence to back it up.
Yeah.
Ethan's murder remains unsolved. When he took over, Detective Filter reviewed the case file and revealed shocking information to Marcus's family. According to Detective Filter, Marcus told his family he was a senior at TSU, but the detective who initially worked the case found out he was no longer enrolled. The police weren't sure what Marcus was doing with all of his free time, but they knew he was selling marijuana. Detective Filter didn't think Marcus was selling significant quantities. He was likely selling small amounts of marijuana to college kids.
Well, end of 1990s, there was a lot of pot being sold and bought at universities.
As opposed to the early 1990s, the entire 1980s, really? The 1970s, and the 1960s. Into the 2000s.
Whenever the hell it became legal.
Legal. It's so funny that you said 1999, as though that was like a tipping point for the selling, buying, and smoking of marijuana.
It was the peak year.
But this really is a big revelation, Gibbs. I mean, we spent quite a bit of time, right, talking about Marcus, the academic side, the family expectations. You know, he was a legacy student at this university. I'm sure his parents were really proud of him.
Of course.
But to find out that he had dropped out of school and was selling weed.
Yeah.
That must have been a big shock to them. because I don't think that's the kid they knew.
No, I'm sure there was some level of disappointment.
Yeah. Valencia confirmed this to Dateline and said Marcus did it to provide for Darius, but she tried to talk him out of it. She said, I just remember for him, it was, this is helping me to be able to help, and I'm going. Well, of course, I need you to help, but not to the point that you're kind of neglecting school and you're doing this. This isn't what you need to be doing. Marcus was also hiding the fact that he had a daughter with his girlfriend, Tawanya. His daughter, Jayla, was 2 at the time, and Marcus took her to daycare on the morning he went missing.
So he had a lot of responsibilities. 2 kids, young age.
He's in school.
You know that selling marijuana is at that time, I can't speak of these times, but at that time, was some quick money. Make some quick cash.
Well, as opposed to, making what? $6, $7 an hour for 4 hours a night at a pizza joint or something like that. I'm not condoning it.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about the reality of it.
Yeah. I'm just saying, you could buy a large sum, break it down, go around to all the different dorms and frat houses, and, here you go. Give me some cash. I'll give you some pot. You guys have a good time.
Yeah, the twinkle in your eye as you're kind of reliving your glory days here is undeniable. The family thinks Marcus lied because he didn't want to disappoint them. He pretended everything in his life was normal. And Gibbs, that wouldn't be the first time.
Oh, of course not.
That a kid lied to his parents because, he just didn't want to let him down.
What are you going to do? Tell your mom, the educator, that, I've kind of given up on the school right now, or I'm kind of just doing half-assed because I'm too busy with trying to take care of my 2 kids, that you don't know about the other one. Oh, sorry, Mom, I have another kid too. And yeah, I'm selling marijuana to the college kids and anybody else will buy it so I can help support them. But
his daughter was 2. So he had kept that secret from them for a number of years.
Yeah, he did.
They said they understood why Marcus didn't tell them about dropping out of school. He possibly planned on going back before they found out. And given how reluctant he was to tell them about his first child, they also weren't surprised. He kept his daughter a secret. However, they recognized that Marcus knew they would be disappointed about him selling marijuana. And I get that point. Dropping out of school, having another child, none of that stuff is illegal.
Right.
It might not be the path that you wanted your kid to go down, but finding out that they're selling drugs, you're going to be at the very least disappointed, maybe even upset about that.
Yeah. And I can see where he's thinking, this is temporary. I'm going to make some quick cash, get out of it, get back to going back to school. Nobody needs to know anything because I don't plan on doing it, but maybe a month or so.
Yeah.
Before you know it, though, it turns into
a full-time gig.
Yeah.
The police found out Marcus was selling marijuana from the people who knew him, including Ethan Gibbs, who was also selling weed. According to Detective Filter, detectives initially thought there was a connection between Marcus's disappearance and Ethan's murder, but there was nothing obvious to prove that. Detective Filter told Dateline, the way the investigation looks is as though the marijuana sales and some confrontations that Marcus had in the months prior to his disappearance are, in my opinion, likely what led to his disappearance.
I get that, right? I mean, it could be you're on somebody else's turf. The school, these are my clients. You can't be selling your stuff here. I won't have it. Or it could be an issue with a supplier or just a bad deal gone bad.
Yeah, or an upset buyer. Yeah. But I get your point. There might have been somebody else selling drugs there that found out he was, and they weren't happy about it. Now, I don't profess to know a ton about the drug selling game.
Yeah.
But I have seen a lot of movies. And in those movies, drug dealers can be very territorial. I'm sure that is true in real life as well.
I would say they are.
Filter did not want to elaborate on those confrontations. He did say he believes foul play was involved. He said, based on the character portrayed by his family and friends, he would not have abruptly broken off contact with everyone. He wouldn't have abandoned his property, including his dog. And I believe if he needed to lie low for some reason, he would have likely told his sister or his best friend at the time. And that statement is completely logical to me. Now, we have found out, right, that Marcus was keeping things from people, including his family.
Right.
But, you know, in most of these cases, Gibbs, that you and I do on Unsolved, my thought is always that, especially with someone like Marcus, he's not estranged from his family. Was he keeping some things from them? Yeah, it turns out he was. But that doesn't mean he wasn't talking to them. So he's just going to up and disappear and never talk to anyone. It's just not likely.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Now, one theory is that Marcus was scared and decided to leave for his own safety. David Rutledge told Dateline, I wonder whether or not Marcus was actually into something that was bigger than he was. And he was actually trying to get away just to leave and leave no trace.
Could happen, right?
Well, it could definitely happen if you're dealing drugs and something goes wrong and someone's looking to hurt you.
Yeah.
And you're trying to not to let that to happen.
But by now, and I mean, well before now, you think you would have come out of hiding and said, hey, I'm back. I'm okay.
But could you also just go to Walmart and buy a burner phone and call your family and say, hey,
yep,
I want to let you know I'm okay, but there are some people after me.
Yeah. And I'll check in with you when I can check in with you.
Yeah. So, you know, that theory, I guess for me, it just doesn't hold a lot of water because I think there's a ton of ways to get in contact with people and still lay low.
Especially his sister. I think he would have reached out to his sister.
For years, the family thought Marcus might still be alive. According to Felicia, they received mysterious phone calls. When a member of the family answered the phone, they heard silence on the other end. The calls started shortly after Marcus disappeared and occurred every month or every other month. Eventually, Marcus's mother, Jerry, would say, hey, don't worry. That's just Marcus checking in. Valencia received similar calls and also believed they were from Marcus. She said they would just call and hold the phone. I would be like, we're fine. You know, your son is good, still loves you. You know, we want you to come home. The calls continued until Jerry Rutledge passed away from a rare brain disorder in 2015. So, yeah, I don't know. Is that Marcus checking in, or are those just random prank phone calls that they're wanting to take as a sign that he's still alive?
And they stopped once she passed away.
Yeah, I never thought of that. Marcus's son, Darius, is now 30 years old, 7 years older, Gibbs, than his father was when he went missing.
Wow.
That just shows you, you know, kind of the perspective of time. You know, when you think about this case, okay, it didn't seem like it was that old of a case, but his son is now 30 years old.
Yeah.
So that puts it into some perspective.
Sure does.
In recent months, there has been a development in Marcus's case. On December 8, 2010, a hunter came across a human skull in a wooded area about 30 yards off Pecan Valley Road in Nashville, less than 20 minutes from where Marcus's car was found. The police searched the area, but no other skeletal remains were found. The cause of death was undetermined. The police submitted DNA from the skull to CODIS, but there wasn't a match. The unidentified person became known as the Pecan Valley John Doe. In 2023, the Metro Nashville Police reached out to Othram Labs in Texas for additional testing. Investigators found possible relatives of the John Doe, and authorities received a separate lead that led to the John Doe being identified as Marcus Rutledge. I mean, this is huge.
That is huge.
Now, it's not that surprising to me. It's just fascinating in the way that it happened,
yeah,
and all that. Othram Labs does some amazing stuff. I think I've said it before, but Morph and I had them on criminology.
Yeah.
In an episode when we were talking about genetic genealogy. So the skull is found, 11, 12 years after Marcus goes missing.
Yes.
But it's another 13 years before he's identified. The Nashville police made the announcement on January 31st, 2025, and confirmed foul play is suspected.
So very recent.
Just earlier this year. David Rutledge issued a statement after the announcement. He said, "Our family would like to express our deepest appreciation to those who have been so helpful to us in trying to find Marcus. Your efforts have brought us another step closer to closure. Marcus, we will forever cherish the memories." It's been 27 years since Marcus Rutledge went missing. Anyone with information about Marcus's disappearance is asked to call the Metro Nashville Police Department Cold Case Unit at 615-862-7329. So Gibbs, as we wrap this one up, there's a lot of mystery to this case. You've got a couple of deaths. Are they completely separate? Are they linked? Marcus and Ethan. What's going on with Charlie Brown? I know they felt like they didn't have enough to indict him.
Yeah.
But how does he play into this if he does at all?
My gut is like somehow it's all tied together.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of with you there. And I think it may have something to do with what Marcus and Ethan were doing on the side, right? The selling of drugs.
For sure.
Can be a dangerous business.
It's a cash business.
Yeah.
You got your big suppliers and then you have your sellers. And, you get a little taste of that money. Someone comes in your territory, you might not like that.
Yeah, so
you're competing.
We did talk about it being like a competitor, right? Somebody else who's selling was unhappy about that. But you just mentioned the cash business part. Could it have been someone who knew these guys were selling and would have cash on them?
Yeah.
And did it for the money? I don't know, but I do kind of think it's possible that they are connected. Now, who it was, that we don't know, but it's hard not to have some hope that police are going to figure it out. I mean, you've got a break like this that happened, many years afterwards.
Right.
So maybe there's more to come.
Maybe. It'd be nice if they find the person that did it.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's it for our episode on Marcus Rutledge. We got a voicemail. You want to check that out?
Let's hear that.
Hi, this is Kelly from San Diego, and I just was calling to give Gibby a hard time because if you're from San Diego, you are a San Diegan, not a San Diegoan. Thought I'd point that out. I also wanted to let you know that I completely understand getting scared and I don't know. Our daughter, she walked away from us at the San Diego County Fair when she was like 3 years old. We had been at the petting zoo, and it was my husband and I and the two daughters. And I went one direction. She was right behind me, but she went the opposite direction. We were washing our hands. And I turned around and she wasn't there. So I asked my husband, "Where is she?" And he says, "I don't know. I thought she was with you." So he stood behind with our other daughter, who's a year older. And I went to the center of the livestock area. And there she was standing there crying, looking around. And as I approached her, I saw an older couple approaching her. And I was hoping and thinking that they were just being nice and about to ask her, "Oh, honey, are you lost?" But yeah, that is the scariest thing ever, to think that you've lost your child. Anyway, keep your own time ticking and keep your head on a swivel. Thank you for listening.
All right. Appreciate the call. I mean, I was scared just hearing the story.
Sure.
Because I'm putting myself in that position as a parent, and I can feel my body like tensing up in that moment where it's just the fear just takes over your body because it's your child.
Yeah.
And I don't think anything scares you as much as it does when it's something that has to do with your kids. I don't know.
Hey, and just to clarify, the San Diegoan.
Yeah, that's a good one.
San Diego. I can't even do.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about the very southwest part of San Diego.
Oh.
We have a little click over there. You southwest San Diegoans, you know.
You and Ron Burgundy.
Reach out, you know, let everybody know what we're talking about. It's a little quadrant, you know, of San Diego people.
I got you.
That we prefer to go by San Diegoans.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, stay classy, San Diego. All right, buddy. That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
This summer, Pluto TV is exploding with thousands of free movies. Summer of Cinema is here. Feel the explosive action all summer long with movies like Gladiator, Mission Impossible, Beverly Hills Cop, Good Burger, and Transformers: Dark of the Moon. Bring the action with you and stream for free from all your favorite devices. Pluto TV. Stream now. Pay never.